This is the writer-director of Wheeler. That's hopefully what you're here to see.
My name is Marshall C. It's great to meet everybody.
And we just tried to give an introduction sort of what the project is. I had pitched it as a sort of futuristic Fast and Furious. And do you want to kind of articulate, sort of your idea of how you would, your elevator speech for what is this project? What is this movie?
No, I mean, I always loved the Fast and Furious series, especially the original ones, because we're, this idea of order versus chaos and finding that mix, that juxtaposition. So I think it gets even more interesting when you put that into the future as we continue to drive more and more towards, no pun intended, more and more towards safety, right? Like the whole idea behind self-driving cars is that it's safer.
And we talked a lot about like how much into the future that this was. And it's interesting because, don't quote me on this, but I had heard that there's some legislation in Europe in the very near future attempting to force all cars that are manufactured to be electric by some kind of near future date. So it's definitely, that definitely seemed, everybody that I've mentioned it to said, oh yeah, I can see that. Like I can see that being a thing that happens, right? And also in rural Pennsylvania, where I'm from, with the trucks and the, the analog lovers, like you called them, they're not trying to give up their cars. You know what I mean? They're not trying to do that. So there's definitely, I can see a divergent group of people appearing saying, we don't want technology and the central authority to sort of run our vehicles.
It's fascinating because even myself, as the car, I drive a 2011 car, which I feel like is, people get my car like, it's a spaceship. I'm like, it is not a spaceship compared to what's being produced today. Today, it is just, wow, it's bonkers to me how much electronics are involved in cars.
Who called a 202011 car a spaceship?
A friend of mine who was driving a much even older car.
Okay.
But it's funny because now I'm getting, like, if I'll go test drive a new car, I'm like, this thing is wild. So many, in my mind, all I can think of is so many different things can go wrong. And so I find myself, as this is happening and we're getting further in technology, even me, who I wouldn't consider myself to be a big analog junkie, although I listen to vinyl, I'm now thinking maybe I just want to go buy a car from the 60s or 70s.
It's just forcing you to want to go back.
To go back to the simplicity.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, on the pro side of it, I can see it. I am a follower of these things like Tesla self-driving and all that movement. And I do see how it could be 1 or 2 or 3 times safer than the safest human driver. And I do see that aspect of it being important to save lives. So I can see why there's a movement to do it. But I can also just, I guess, in my mind, play out a scenario like this script where that kind of separation occurs. People who just don't want to give it up.
Yes.
And I think that's a cool premise, and that's what drew me into it.
Yeah.
And that first scene for me is what I liked the most when I read the screenplay. was just just the way that plays out. Like the cops are just used to controlling their thing through the voice and whatever, and stopping a car, and they don't realize really what's going on. Oh, actually, the character himself is a wheeler in the closet, if you will. So, I thought was cool.
Which I'm excited to talk about Blake and that character.
So why don't we do that? So the idea today is to talk about each of the characters and what you're looking for, so that we have that in mind as we do our casting and our self-tape review, whether that's with you or with another casting assistant or casting director. So I want to go through each of the characters, and then I'm hoping, although our technical setup isn't seeming to be allowing for that, to do some self-tape reviews today, especially CLEO. Okay. So, but I definitely want to see if we can get to maybe some self-tape auditions, and I will post the. I'm going to post now. Try to post the Zoom link if anybody wants to come in and on camera and ask some questions when we get to the end of the sort of discussion about each character.
Cool. That's great. So, I see Dean's asking, is this being recorded? The answer is yes. This will be available on the channel after we have concluded the live.
Hopefully. Assuming all goes well.
Assuming CLEO wants it that.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to just write up as we go forward, as we go through on this, the name of the character on screen, so that as we're discussing it, at least we'll have that. At least we'll have that on there. And do you want to go in order of? What order would you like to go in?
I've got one here. Is kind of like in how they were introduced roughly in the movies.
Okay, that's a good way to go. Okay, so first up
we have Blake.
Okay,
Blake's our protagonist. He's our quote unquote hero that we're following here.
Towns, T-O-W-N-E-S.
T-O-W-N-E-S.
Okay.
Yeah. And as a writer director, it's funny because as you write, like I don't think I can write anything that I haven't felt. So every one of these characters, I was starting to go through and think more deeply about them and their breakdowns. It's funny. It's like going in and thinking about parts of myself.
Okay.
You know, either whether they're
Right, what you
things
know.
I've experienced exactly, or things that I've envisioned. So Blake is somebody in my mind who grew up obedient. Like he was born with kind of that obedient gene, and he had a pretty good upbringing. This isn't somebody who's coming from like the depths of an abusive.
Well, his mother is the
relationship.
captain, right? Of
His mother's the captain of the
police
police
She was
force.
probably the captain or in the police force when he was a younger child, right?
Yep.
And okay, so that would have an influence.
Powerful maternal figure, but also a loving, like a healthy relationship. But also she's very committed to safety and discipline, and so that was baked into Blake at an early age. But kind of like kids who, you know, maybe they've got an artistic bent. Maybe they're, you know, like for me, like I love music and filmmaking, and I became a lawyer first, right? So it's this idea that there's a deeper love that is repressed, that they don't feel. It's not, you know, maybe it's nurtured, but like, oh, good for you, you know. But it's not like, hey, have you thought about going to music school to deepen this, right? Like
they weren't trying to foster it. They were like, you know, patting you on the back, but not necessarily like wanting you to commit to music.
Deeper, commit, right? Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like that's the Blake character, and so he's gotten so much validation from being obedient and being dutiful that he's kind of continued that way because that praise and that laud feels good, and now he's starting to escalate up through the ranks of the police force. But you can't keep something like that repressed. So for him, it's driving his granddad's car, quote unquote, illegally out in the desert, hoping that nobody notices and the cameras that are flying in the air aren't catching him.
Yeah, so I can see how that influences his internal life, and I can see how that gives you some sense of his motivation and his desire, obviously, to go in and be part of this wheeler community because he feels a part of it, you know, somewhere in a repressed way. How about physically? I mean, do you have an image of a person in mind? Do they just every? Do you want to see all kinds of people in this role, or do you have a I guess a notable celebrity you can point to that you would say that would be the kind of type that you'd be casting, or how do you want to think about approaching the kinds of people you want to see submit?
Yeah. So he's a fit person. Like this is somebody who you would imagine, I don't know.
He's not the donut eater. You have one copy of the donut eater. He's not the donut eater. Although we have Sprinkles cupcakes here.
He eats fewer. He eats fewer donuts.
Yes, fewer donuts.
Maybe they're gluten-free.
Probably goes to the gym.
Okay. Yeah, because that kind of fits that structure, right? That obedience, that structure, that this is how I do it, self-discipline piece of it. So he's somebody who is strong, who, you know, we're not talking The Rock here. We're not talking like overly so, but you know, baseball player.
So if The Rock came to you, you wouldn't want him to play the part.
This is interesting. I would say no. I think there are people in there. I think The Rock would be fascinating Carver. A take on Carver I hadn't actually thought about. But if he'd be open to like aging himself more, like I mean, it's amazing how they can make people look these days. I think his grit, his whole persona fits Carver so beautifully. An older Rock in that form, that'd be fast.
So I think we're open to all beginner to, you know, A-list, but I think for the Blake role, it would be nice. I think it'd be nice to discover somebody there, even though it is a lead role, so you have to be able to have the experience enough as an actor to carry a part and know what they're doing when they show up on set. But it'd be cool if we could discover somebody. But if you had to pick a celebrity though to play it, just so people have an idea of sort of an archetypal character, can you pick a few, maybe a few different ones that you think would be a Blake Towns?
Yeah, so because to me there's a juxtaposition between Blake being strong and masculine in a way, but also very approachable. Approachability, I think, is really crucial for Blake's character. So it's not somebody like, you know, like you go to the gym, right? And you see these guys who are just flipping shredded.
Right.
And there's some of them who like, and he looks like a really nice guy. And then there's others who are like, I'm probably going to stay away from him.
So
right? Just from that kind of energetic perspective, this is somebody who's approachable. You'd be like, you know what? If you needed this, here it is. This is who Blake is. If you're at the gym and you needed a spot,
You'd go to him.
you'd go to him.
Okay, because you feel like you could ask him
Yeah.
on the spot.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I see certain characters like, or people that are like the MMA type fighters, somebody who could totally kick your ass, but they're so confident that they're not going to try to get into a fight, and they're not trying to be overly aggressive. They don't have a chip on their shoulder. They're just, like,
Yeah.
I guess that inner confidence of knowing themselves doesn't make them be overly aggressive or distant or I don't know. You call
Totally.
it
Like I think of like an Anthony Mackie, right? Like
I actually don't know who that is. I don't know who
Did you
Anthony
watch
Mackie
the
is.
Marvel movies?
I've watched more movies. Which character
Okay.
is he?
He's the Falcon, and now he's becoming the new Captain America.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So, and I think that's a big thing
He's
about.
he's a super fit dude.
He's a super fit dude, but he's
Also approachable, kind
approachable,
eyes, and
right, which is
yeah.
why like he's filling those Captain America shoes, right? I mean,
Okay.
very much something that Chris Evans had in that role is somebody who you feel very comfortable going up and talking to, but you're also like, you can throw down.
I can't help but because of the storyline and I should know this guy, and I know Fast and Furious. Not really a fan, but I've watched them all. Like, who's the main character that died tragically? Sort of like the cop.
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Is that not that's who I can't help but put into my head.
Yeah, I mean, especially
like,
when you describe this as Fast and Furious.
yeah, well, that's why I'm stuck on that. But
Yeah.
but
But no, Paul had that.
is that an
Absolutely.
example? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're willing to see, basically male. So we're going to limit it to male. It's a guy.
I think that is for this
Right? It's a
particular
guy.
role. I think that's
It's a
important. Yeah.
And we're not trying to change that. Apparently, we're not trying to change that. And then, but different ethnicities could be anybody as long as they fit
100%.
the characterization that you just gave.
Totally agnostic to that.
And of a certain height, does that matter? I mean, tall stature, small stature.
I don't picture this person being like 6'6", and I don't
Okay.
picture them being 5'6". I picture them being kind of in
like a
that
6 foot range.
5'10" to 6'1" kind of general range.
I think we wanted to cover Blake pretty well since he's the main character, but are we good? We leave anything out? I wish we had somebody looking at the chat. Nobody's really paying attention to the chat, so I'm sorry if I'm not seeing you there.
There's somebody that's going to be a link to the script. I noticed that.
I gave a what about the
link? If there's a link.
Oh, there is one in the community post. There is the latest youtube.com/interdependent/community, or in the community tab. There's the latest post has a link.
Cool. Just
to the screen link. Somebody just said it's on the YouTube channel. Okay, thank you, Rajab. So I'm going to try to check in with that a little bit. Lorenzo asked a question.
Dean posted it.
What was the question, Lorenzo? Can you repeat it again so I don't have to search for it, if you don't mind? I wish.
Oh, I hope Vin.
I hope Vin Diesel likes to give insight on the character.
Yeah, he needs to see his cameo.
And you told me you added that because it was so clearly in that lane. You're like, rather embrace that than to to go away from it. So just throw them in there.
I mean, we live in a world of movie franchises, right? I mean, like, why not lean into that and pay homage to what has come before? Okay,
that's cool. So he's probably not seeing it. We're currently at like 1,200 or 1,100 subscribers or something, so probably not seeing it. But maybe we can get to him at WME, and we'll see.
I don't know. Vin could just have like a YouTube live streaming addiction, and this is like, we don't even know.
Yes, that's possible. It's possible. If anybody out there knows them, give them a call. When will submissions be accepted? Rajab, you can submit them now. So the instructions are also on the channel for submitting a self-tape, and we're going to start reviewing some of the ones we already got. So some people have already submitted them. We're going to do some more of this on Sunday, although Sunday will be more about the tallest, darkest leading man in Hollywood. But we will get to some of this. Okay, let's go on to the next character and continue.
Awesome.
All right. What do we got? What do you want to do next?
Let's go to Gil, because there's definitely a buddy comedy element.
Full name
to this
there?
movie.
Was Gil?
Yes.
Gilbert or something? Or was it
no,
Gil?
it is Gilbert. Gil for short, Swift.
And you didn't know that was my middle name or my father's name, right? We're not connected.
No.
Okay.
You haven't told me that.
I am a Gil. I was a Gil at Villanova. But yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, so Gilbert Gil
Characters modeled
Swift.
after you, Chris.
I don't know what is it. We'll talk about what the character is and see if it fits me at all. If I like that or if I don't like that. Gilbert Gil Swift. Okay. All right. So
quick question from Lorenzo. Are characters written based on specific actors, or is it more of a personal idea of characters that you thought of randomly?
That's Lorenzo's question.
That's Chris does.
I like Sprinkles cupcakes.
There we go.
Yeah. Well,
it's a really good question, Lorenzo.
Better posture, so I don't show that I like.
I do when I write. I do. It doesn't start with the actor for me. It starts with a general concept of character dynamics that I think are going to be interesting on screen, which always inevitably ends up being character dynamics within myself that are like that or somehow inside of me. And then once it starts to come to life, it helps me to think of an actor or actress that is going to kind of encapsulate a little bit of that. Makes it a little bit easier to write in a specific voice or to give more specificity to the dialogue.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're talking about all parts of yourself, hopefully you're very schizophrenic because you don't want all the characters to start sounding the same and just being, talking the same. I
think all deep down we're all very schizophrenic if we get real honest.
Yeah, I am. But do you have a short list in your mind though when you're doing it? At some point you said you do. You begin to conceptualize or visualize like who might play that role or to give them a voice, a specific voice.
Yeah.
So who can we give an example of that for Gil?
Oh, totally. I think I'm mildly okay with actor names. So
mild. I'm not great.
So,
I'm not great. Tell the character they are in what movie.
Paul Hauser, I believe. Hauser's definitely in his name. I think it's Paul. He was in I, Tonya, Cobra Kai.
Who was he in Cobra Kai? Because we talked about
phenomenal actor.
Okay, he's not the main.
Cobra Kai, no, he's he's kind of like the slightly more heavy-set, older guy who wants to be a part of Cobra Kai. He just came back in at the end of the season. Spoiler alert, if you guys watch it. But yeah, I, Tonya, he played I think he was up for an Oscar.
So you have the list there. What is Gil's age range?
Gil's in his 30s.
Okay.
I would say.
And what is his character in the screenplays for anybody who's watching and hasn't actually?
So he's Blake's partner in the police force.
So that's the donut eater.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Little punches,
right?
Yeah. Okay.
But the whole idea is that being a cop, especially a kind of a traffic patrol cop in a world where driving is illegal and cars are autonomous, like
I just watched. No. Yeah. I don't know why I'm thinking of this guy now, but we just recently watched Die Hard at the UCLA Film School. And the cop, they went in for Twinkies at the beginning. It was like, it wasn't donuts, it was Twinkies, but it was like, the captain who ends up talking to Bruce Willis on the mic the whole time. Remember Die Hard very well or not really?
It's been a long time.
He's a great example of somebody I think that fits kind of what you're saying. Okay. I don't know. Okay. So what else can we say about
so Gil is somebody who
they've been partners for a long time.
Like, Gil considers Blake a friend.
Okay.
Right. And Blake maybe doesn't fully know how to have friends. So there's a little bit of a mismatch there.
Because he feels like a wheeler and he doesn't trust the people in the force? Or,
I think it's more as he kind of keeps work. I don't know. It's interesting because as I think through the script, this wasn't necessarily done intentionally, but we do not see Blake interact with friends outside of the force in his normal life. Like when he meets the Wheelers and starts to go into that world, he actually starts to develop friendships for the first time because these are people who think like he actually thinks. And I think he's been resistant, or he's been so work focused because that's what he should do. It's what he's been told to do. I know we're back on Blake. I feel
we're back on you. I feel like
we're always gonna, if we're talking about Wheeler, anything that I write, that's we're always going to be talking about me. This is my therapy.
That's true.
But like it is. That's how Gil wants to be his friend. I don't know if you watched the new Wednesday series on Netflix, but you see this dynamic between Wednesday, who doesn't really know how to have friends, and her roommate who wants to be her friend. And it's kind of part of the learning journey there. So there's a little bit of that in this as well.
That idea, because I'm trying to pull out things that will hopefully help actors make choices, from the talking about the character and their
so if you watched Wednesday, the Enid character would be the Gil character to Wednesday's.
But I get that idea of like somebody you can clearly tell like wants to be your friend. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like maybe they're trying a little bit too hard, not overly, but they're trying. They're trying to reach out. They're trying to be your friend. They're doing things to overtly signal that, hey, I'm trying. And maybe you're not getting it, or he hasn't been getting that kind of partnership from his partner. Hasn't been getting that love from.
Yeah, or Blake's like, sure, we're friends at work. That doesn't really
draws
extend
along.
beyond that.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on with Gil? You have more to say? What do you think?
So another important thing I think about Gil, because to me this is somebody whose personality and weirdness and goofiness is going to cut through and be very palpable. I view this as somebody who, because he wasn't the athletic kid growing up, you know, he kind of had to overcorrect in the form of putting out more personality or more weirdness, more goofiness, in order to gain acceptance, in order to be like, oh, let's keep that guy around. He's amusing.
So he's the
right?
class
Like that's how
clown
he
kind of
kind of got
guy.
him in.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an element of that to
Oh,
Gil
okay.
for sure, and kind of a way that like has also helped him be okay with, you know, not being fully in shape, because he still feels some validation and value.
So he's got some personality value. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. I'm good with that. I don't know if there's any. Let's see. Stingray is the character on
CARLISLE.
Stingray. Oh,
throwback. I like it.
Harvey.
Yeah, Stingray. That's
Harvey
the character.
Gillen sounds
Paul
good for
Walter
Gil.
Hauser. Okay. See, I was about to say Paul Walker Hauser. I'm like, no, I'm thinking Paul Walker from Fast and Furious.
Those are good comments. Would real world experience and knowledge of classic cars help in consideration for the characters that interact with these vehicles? I can't possibly think it would hurt.
No, it would.
Being a lover of this stuff has got a shot come out. Didn't some of these guys in Fast and Furious end up owning a car shop and like really getting into that lifestyle to bring out the character? That's got to be a big.
And there's so many subtle. I mean, you see these characters with their cars so often. The way you touch the car, where you stand next to the car, what if you lean on the car, if you don't lean on the car, how you hold the steering wheel, how you shut the door, you know, like there's things like that for a connoisseur and a true lover of it that are just going to come naturally. That need to come through.
Versus having to train or coach that for somebody who's just not a car person.
Right.
Yes.
But I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about being an actor, right? Is you get to learn and you get to dive deep. So it's not that somebody couldn't learn that, but yes, if you already have that love or that experience, I think that will translate very beautifully to screen.
Okay.
Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
Okay. So this, we'll get to the accent. Maybe I want to get to the accent question when it comes to Cleo and Captain Nora Roberts. But let's see. So let's go back and switch characters now. So who's next up?
All right, Cleo.
Cleo's next?
Cleo's next.
Cool. I like Cleo.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know why.
What Siri wants to be when she grows up.
Okay. And so now that leads directly into the question of accents. So I got a lot of I think that Mandy.com is based in London or something. I got a lot of English, British submissions.
Cool.
And for Cleo as well, it's gonna have a British accent, or I guess for Cleo, it's like it's a AI, right? So it could be probably anything. I mean, but do you have a particular voice in mind when you hear that? I mean, is a British accent okay, or do they want to do an American accent?
I mean, I set my Siri to British.
Oh, you set your Siri? There you go. Okay, cool.
You can choose your accent. I don't know. I think as Americans, we have an infatuation with British accents.
Somebody who submitted said exactly that same thing. She said, I can do an American accent, but I did a British because I think the British love to hear the Americans love to hear a British accent. I so want to watch some of those auditions. We might have to do that Sunday, but I so want to watch some of them.
Okay.
But for the other characters, like I have another person that did Captain Nora, Nora Towns. Must they be American?
No.
Because I just feel like obviously not only Americans with American accents live in LA or live here, right? So you can have anybody who lives here that's from somewhere else. But I guess it would be a particular choice if she wasn't about the backstory of his mother, I guess. But could the mother be? So I have somebody who I want to show you. I'll show you her tape, but and which maybe we'll talk about when we get to there. But you're open to people of different international locations happy to just live in this thing. Or
absolutely. And I mean, I think it would be reviewed, obviously, everything is on a case-by-case basis, because what we're looking for is something that's going to drive the dynamic between Blake and his mother deeper. The more layers of subtext we can create, right? Like, all of a sudden, like, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, there was a visual and noticeable difference between the nationalities of Blake and his mother. Okay.
If you could ask the question, why
There's
is
so
that?
many questions, right? Like, is he adopted? And we could answer that yes or no if you think about it. We don't even have to say that in the movie, but it's something that in that director-actor relationship we can talk about that's going to create so many layers of subtext. Or maybe he's not. Maybe his father, was, and he just looks more like his father than he does his mother. Or are there other cultural realities of that his mother grew up if she was an immigrant that would create a different dynamic, or is there a bit of a tiger mom thing there? Is there so there's so many layers, and that's stuff that doesn't have to be addressed in dialogue,
Right.
But will add so much richness.
Yeah. Okay, I get that. That's cool. No, that's great. I think that answers some questions that I got. It helps a lot of people not feel like they need to put on an American accent they're not comfortable with it,
Totally.
or just speak how they would. With The Tallest Dark City Man, we had a little bit of a problem because it was based on historical figures, so it needed to sort of be like that because they're fictional characters, so you can play a lot more with that. So that's cool. All right. So CLEO. This was my question about CLEO. I'm going to say it now, and then I'll bring it up again when we watch some of these self-tape auditions, and it may give an opportunity for those who haven't submitted yet to do this the way you would like to see it. But my question about CLEO is, for me, how much in the future is CLEO? So for me, AI technology is advancing rapidly. And some of the submissions that I got feel like they could be beautiful voices and well done, and I love them. But they feel like they could be Alexa today, in the terms of the way the cadence was, how it seemed to be like rebooting, almost like you can hear the automated, the technology in it. You can hear that it's not, versus like, I don't know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when you hear that first computer speak, like it's ridiculously computerized. Now it's becoming more natural language. But my question is, how much will that natural language probably change rapidly in our time with AI and natural speaking? And do you want it to just sound like it's a person, versus how much do you want to hear that it's, not a human, I guess is my question. Like, because really it could just sound exactly like a person.
It's such a great question, because
it's you'd have to watch the videos, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yes, it begs the question of what is human? What makes a voice human? So if we think about representations of these types of Siri-like voices in film and TV, one that I go to is, did you see Why Him, with James Franco and Zoe Deutsch and Bryan Cranston?
I don't think so.
It's one of my new favorite
Why
Christmas
Him?
movies. Yeah, Why Him.
Okay.
Hilarious. Anyway, so James Franco plays this tech mobile gaming mogul.
I did see it. His parents come.
Her parents come
with her to I have seen it. And he's such a bro. They're so formal and serious, and he's such a he's such a bro.
He's such a bro.
Like it probably shows him his underwear or something. Like stupid shit. Yeah.
So he's got a Siri system that is all throughout his house.
Okay.
But voiced by Kaylee Cuoco from Big Bang Theory.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
So in that, Siri has a full-on personality, right? Like you hear the voice, but it's a human. It's fully human, or sounds fully human.
Okay.
And so that's one end of the spectrum, to where it sounds like
just a person,
complete human that just happens to be no body.
A voiceover, just a person, another character.
Yeah. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got something that sounds so robotic or so monotone. I think back to the original voice parrot things from the 90s, right? That would just speak to you back like this, and had no impact.
Yeah.
So I would say we're probably around, if that's 0 to 10, we're probably currently around 6, maybe.
Okay.
Pushing
maybe
towards
we'll bump it to so is it going to 10 or?
I don't want to go all the way to 10.
Okay.
I'm thinking in that 8 or 9. I think we can go as far as 8 or 9, because we are a little bit further in the future. But there needs to be something that just viscerally in the audience feels like, no, I know that's not human.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's just something there. And I think one of the ways to do that is whatever the motive is behind the voice, it never changes. Right. So let's just say the
Can
motive.
Can we try to show one of these?
I'm going
to try to show the one that we called up, and I don't know how this is gonna turn out. I'm gonna see if it plays and if you can hear it. Okay.
Rerouting.
Oh, it stopped. Start at the beginning. Rewind. Okay, we might have to just play it from where it is. And then maybe we can. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Margarita Grillis. I'm reading for CLEO in Wheeler for Independent Pictures, Studio Zero. Thank you for watching.
You're good.
Congratulations on another great arrest, officers. Perpetrators are being rerouted to LAPD Precinct 42.
It's that pause between the routed to, and then it's clear it's like downloading from a database the location in which it is.
Yeah.
That pause gives it to me that little bit of a, that's the computer. It's like, okay, a database is giving you words and things like that. Rerouted to, and pause,
what
LA precinct, whatever.
Totally. There's those subtle pauses, like where you're like, you know, in the background, you're stitching together different things. The other piece that I think is great about the way that she's delivering this, which I always had in my head, is the intent behind the phrase is the same. What she's saying there, subtext,
I get what you're saying.
Is good job.
Yeah.
Like every sentence is good job. Good job, right? Like good job. Like there's about me telling you, like turn left. Like, what she's saying is good job.
There's some more I'd love this particularly, but let's watch some more of this here.
All conditions are clear. There is an unknown obstruction in the roadway. Rerouting.
Good job.
Rerouting. No alternate route detected. Initiating emergency lockdown and contacting roadside assistance. An unknown disturbance has been reported to dispatch. Possible auto theft. Engaging pursuit mode. Request declined. Civilian risk too high.
I love it. I mean, hand gesture, obviously it's a voice, but just the addition of her hand gestures and cues for me watching it, just like she just gets it right. I don't know if it helps her by gesturing and delivering it, but I just love that it's so request denied. That just sounds exactly like what you might expect. I just didn't know if it's clearly a Siri or a technology. And I'm sure she can play with that. I'm sure she can adjust, like exactly tune in to the level that you want it. But
what I think she's nailing here that I had in my mind, like
so you agree? So you like?
I like this one a lot. I like this one a lot.
Okay, cool.
Is that same? It's the same message over and over and over again. Like it is this positive affirmation. Okay. Everything, regardless of whether or not it's danger, you know, or whether it's something like congratulations, you caught the bandits. There's no shift in like emotional highs and lows. It's the same thing. And it's always, you know, like good jobs, is positive affirmation. And I think it's important because CLEO was developed, I mean, get into this character next if you want to, by Aldric CARLISLE, the mastermind.
Let's just do Aldric next, but don't tell too much about his character.
But so, you know, thinking about that, maybe we come back to CLEO.
Okay, no, let's okay, so I'll
going to inform why CLEO is the way that she is. And I think it's important that she is positive affirmation over and over and over again, but I don't think there's weird pauses. I think he's figured that out. So she speaks very human in that there's not a weird, no things like that. Okay. But it is also, you know, it's not human because it's just the same emotional tone every time.
Yeah, I've got a couple things about this. So number one, I think that the technology probably will advance, that they're not feeling the emotions, but I think that the emotional intelligence of delivering things differently probably will exist soon. But if it's important to the character of Aldric's kind of like how he developed it specifically, I can see that being an intention, whether subconsciously or consciously, of putting that into it. And it is more ominous that it comes across that way, and it lacks sort of that human element to it. Maybe that makes it more evil in a sense. That you know what I mean? Or
and I think
that's
it plays with it
as a character.
I do, and I think it lends itself to that also, as well as comedy. Noel brought up a good point. He says future AI would be capable of subtext. I actually agree with Noel. I think future AI would be capable of subtext, but I don't think it's designed that way. I think intentionally, while it could sound 100% human, it doesn't.
So let's get into the next character.
There are reasons for that based on all this character.
So let's finish her off since we started, and then we'll go into Aldric.
Warning. Traffic impeded ahead. Emergency stop initiated.
That was it. Okay, cool. So nice. Yeah, I do like that. And there's more that are really good too.
Oh, I'm excited to see more when we do that now on Sunday.
Okay, cool. So. So, yeah, I do like that. And there's more that are really good too. I'm excited to see more when we do that now on Sunday. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I do like that. let's go to Aldric. And what is this? Aldric?
Yep.
And what is the last name?
Carlisle, which is
Carsle.
no, Carl, C-A-R-L, and then Isle, I-S-L-E.
Great.
The Isle of Carl.
Somehow Paris Carlisle reminded me if it was a Paris Hilton-esque character. I don't know why that came across. But
Well, that's because we intentionally chose
That's
the
what it
name
was?
Paris to get that
Yeah,
socialite
Paris to-
image across.
to give that, well, it came across, yeah, good. Okay, so Aldric and his you would talk about him in general, then we can talk about the motivations, I guess, sort of.
So, yeah. So Aldric is on the, autistic spectrum. He is somebody who, he's not 100%, but there's a gap there of understanding human emotion. He has it, but it's not, he just he has that little bit of over indexing on the logical side of things.
But to set this up, he is the sort of Steve Jobs character of the technology.
He's
that
the
sort
Steve
of
Jobs of this
runs
world, the
society,
technological
more or less.
mastermind who has just taken over basically, and to the point to where even governments are reliant upon their technology. It's so pervasive throughout because it is so successful and it works so well.
And that brought up some of the questions, I think, about the screenplay, about like, where is the authority really? Is the authority vested in the actual government or the police forces, or is it in Aldric and his technology, and how far can he go within the law or outside of the law to kind of do his bidding, using that technology?
Yes.
And where is the authority rest?
Yes.
It's kind of ambiguous or unclear, I guess, because of the situation it's in, because his technology controls so much that even governments are reliant upon it, which puts them in a, under his thumb a little bit.
Absolutely, and that is something in our real world that is only going to continue to become a thing. We're already on that path. It's already happened.
Or unelected officials have too much power and control over society, basically.
Yes, I mean the governments are reliant. Our government isn't creating a whole lot of new tech.
No, that's for sure.
So
Aldric's personality, you said on the spectrum, he creates the technology. He's the CEO of this mastermind.
And he is somebody who has had some tragic event happen. I mean, we don't talk about the fact that his wife and Paris's mom is not in the picture. So we see a picture of the family early on, that we never see her. So we know that something happened. We know that she's no longer with us.
Okay.
And so there is a loss. And I imagine this to be somebody who, quite naturally, they've lost somebody, and so all of a sudden they become hyper obsessed with safety.
Interesting. And you feel like that's a natural like progression? So somebody who's suffered they suffered a loss, so they're afraid. I get it. No, I get it. My brain's foggy right now, but I get it. Yeah. It's like, I've got to be overly careful so that I don't lose someone else, or make sure that my other parent that's alive or whatever is still, not going to suffer the same fate, or that I don't, or somebody that I love doesn't, or whatever.
And like, if we dig into the character,
so is this from you? Are we really going to therapy here? Is this something that happened to you?
No, I've been lucky not to have something that intense happen to me, but I have a lot of people close to me who have, and my parents both lost their fathers when they were 6, and so I've seen it play out in their own lives of that what that creates, and there's no one way that manifests, but it is, I think, when you couple that with the fact it's the spectrum aspect, I think you get a really interesting character who will do anything to keep people safe. And it doesn't sound like it's coming from, and I want to take a little bit of a pause and look at those real quick, the question. It doesn't sound like it's coming from an evil, nefaric, I don't know if that's the word, but like a bad place. It seems like it's more just like a protective, instinct. Yes. So, but he's kind of the figure in this that we're trying to override, I guess, or right? The reelers are sort of like, they don't like the grip that has. So he is sort of the antagonist of the drama of the plot. But yet I guess he's not all bad, right? I mean, his instincts are good, or what? Like his motives are good, or what? I think you get down to it, and I don't know that there's anybody who really thinks that what they're doing is wrong. everyone when they're doing whatever they're doing, no matter how horrific it is, there's some sort of justification that is driving it for them that makes them believe that this is completely okay. And that's going to go for, you know, the character of Hector as well. So, but for Aldric, it is definitely this desire to keep people safe, and in his mind, that equals control.
Are there some examples we can float to the surface too of like from other films that you may have used in your mind to embody sort of that idea?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is a dynamic that's been shown, you know, very frequently. Yeah, sorry, everybody.
Yeah, I love blood sugar.
I need to be speaking with my mouth full.
But go ahead.
So
Aldric character from another film.
Yeah.
If you were to pick him from another film.
let's close that.
Oh shit!
No.
Hit my remote control.
Oh,
we got basketball. Stop!
Florida
Sorry,
Kentucky
guys.
game
We're
now,
gonna watch the Florida Kentucky game now.
I want to see if anyone's throwing anything up in the comments. I'd be curious to know who do you see in this? What characters have you seen that
leads to creating Ultron? That guy, hold on.
Yeah.
I can't wait
That's
for
true.
a take review.
I was going
It
the
might
Marvel
not be
direction.
today, Maya. It might be Sunday.
You know, you do have that. You do, and there's a little bit in the Tony Stark. I mean, Tony Stark's obviously a hero, not a villain, but that is what led to Ultron, is this kind of desire to keep people safe and to keep them controlled.
Minority Report, the precogs. I love Minority Report. I was stand-in for that in a scene with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz a long time ago.
Oh, Dean says he imagines the lead from Big Bang Theory. Yes, like that is kind of that spectrum. Now that's obviously going deep down the comedy route of it, but yes, that is kind of the general place that we're thinking here.
Okay.
You know, more will come to me. You see this idea of trying to.
But so why are you saying
drive
everything's
safety
happy with
control.
Cleo? Why are you saying everything's happy with her when he creates this?
Okay, so the
AI.
reason why he's designed Cleo to be so driven by positive affirmation is because he's done all these psychological tests to understand how humans respond. And he needs humans to respond in the safest way possible too, and to feel safe. And data has told him that that is this certain particular level of positive affirmation. Like it's dialed in, right? Like there were 1,200 different versions of Cleo, and this one indexed the best by like 0.002% or whatever. And like that's why he chose it.
I'm just trying to think of a counterexample, like potentially like in a life-threatening situation, is positive reinforcement necessarily going to be a thing that's going to jolt you into action if action is required in an emergency situation?
So I think in Aldric's world, he doesn't want the humans taking the action because humans are unreliable.
They
so
just be passive
he
and let them take care
needs
of it.
them
So
to be passive so
passive
that the
aggressive.
technology, the things that he have created, can jump in and save and
Got it.
Get-
Okay.
the best outcome.
Okay. Cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Sheldon.
Sheldon.
My mom's favorite character.
Yes.
Yeah, you probably don't want to eat with your mouth full. I actually took it away. You want one or no? You good? You want one? I can try to do some talking. Give you a minute to.
Are they? I can't do the glutens and the berries.
Oh no, I don't think there's any gluten-free sprinkles. Maybe. Yeah.
Cook a slab of meat after this.
All right. So let's go on to the next one. How many characters do we have left? Do you know?
Well, of the main ones, we've got. We still haven't talked about Blake's mom.
Okay.
I guess we did a little bit. We could dig deeper into her. We could talk about Paris, Hector, DANI. We got Riley and Surgeon, and then we start to get into the
Morrison.
more minor
Aldric
characters.
uses his wife's voice as the inspiration for Cleo.
Ooh,
Is
yeah.
that true, or did he from the script he got that, or that's just his idea?
I think that's just his idea,
Okay.
and that is you are barking up the right tree, my friend. That is, yeah. I think, and it's interesting because I have a friend who is on the spectrum, and I know his fiance very, very well, and I've seen them interact. And it's funny you bring that up because that is very much a dynamic. Like she is kind of like his whisperer when like he starts to get a little bit too hyped up about something and his mind starts to spin and go down this like rabbit hole. It is that positive affirmation, that subtle, that perfect pitch that pulls him back in. And so yes,
Okay,
I think
cool.
he nailed it.
I want to try to wrap up the descriptions in 9 minutes. That's going to give
9
less time for
minutes,
these characters, if we can, and then try to see if it's possible to do at least introduce some of the self-tape reviews and continue on.
Okay, great.
Maybe I can find some self-tapes of the character we're discussing. I think we have an Aldric.
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure if we'll be able to do that or not, but I may attempt. To do that. So I'm going to attempt, I guess, right now.
All right, we're attempting.
So I have playlists created, and there's
Nice.
4 other CLEOs that we have.
Okay.
Let's see. We have Blake Towns, Captain Nora Jones. Why don't we talk about her and see if I can show one of these instead of, that wasn't the one I wanted to do. Blake. But what I have to do is share this with myself and see if it works.
Okay.
Could we just
I feel like this is the part of the show where we need like a little dancing monkey or something just to visually
No.
keep everybody entertained.
Someday I have a few other people that are going to show up to do the technical stuff, so that way there'll be less pressure on me to do it and talk at the same time. But we'll go on. It doesn't seem like it's going to be obviously easy to pull those in, at least right now.
Cool.
So the next character description is.
Let's
still go in order for this.
Yeah, let's go back to Nora because we talked about her
Okay.
briefly.
Okay.
Captain Nora Towns, Blake's mother.
Okay.
So this is somebody who grew up as we learn. Spoiler alert! If you haven't read the script, that Carver is her father, and so Carver is the head of the Wheelers. He is somebody who has lived by his own code, his own way, a lover of freedom, also a lover of people, and Nora has kind of gone the other direction. She's been pulled by her
Not a lover of people?
lover of people.
Why in the police force?
Very much a lover of people. I think they share that 100%. But the opposite of freedom, right?
Right.
Her love of people has more in line with Aldric of therefore we need control and we need peace and we need structure. Structure
Right.
is what's going to bring about
Okay.
safety and for her love of people. So I think that's very much in there. And so it's created this departure from them. And one of the dynamics I wanted to play with is just something I see in families a lot where, you know, the child rebels against the way of the family and then does their own thing. And then their children rebel back the other direction, become more like the grandparents. It's kind of like cyclical thing. So that's something I wanted to tie in here. So she is somebody who values structure over freedom because to her, that is what's going to, again, keep people safe. So that I think is core to her characteristic. And then it's very taxing on her relationship with Blake when Blake is starting to go this other route.
Okay. And I remember from her, she's the one who's interacting with, I guess, Aldric and the other forces that are at play. So she's kind of intermediary of communications. That I'm not sure how I guess there was a question of Aldric, so he's kind of the super authority, and I guess she's the one in charge of the investigation into this Wheeler incident.
Yeah.
That's why they're communicating. Like, are there other chains of command in between them, or why is this dynamic being created?
When my co-writer Van and I were first working on this, we had conversations about how deep we wanted to get into the governmental side of things. There was an early iteration where we had a character of the mayor of Los Angeles and kind of got more into the trifecta of dynamics where you have the police force, you have the mayor, and you have Aldric. It just got too complicated.
Okay. Too many characters.
Simplifying that down into the head of the police force and Aldric, and then what is that intercoupling? How is that working? And focusing on the microcosm of Los Angeles rather than the macrocosm of the world or the U.S. Just made the story a bit more specific.
Okay.
But that is something that we want to have in there where they are aligned on certain things. They're aligned on safety. They're aligned on structure. But then we're bringing in the question of how much control is too much control and where should the power lie and how is that balanced in a way that is healthy versus a way that, could tip the scales in the wrong direction.
I think that was the thing, I guess, that I took in writing my description of it that it resonated with me, hence why I use it in the description. It's just sort of like the one man's journey into this Wheeler world, and sort of as an audience, I see ourselves being pulled more and more into agreement with that Wheeler ethos, I called it, or whatever, just that idea that we don't want technology to control our lives too much, that it has And I think that that's sort of the journey. It's a personal journey. It's a story of a family. I like you pared it down.
Yeah.
It's Blake's story, his mother, the grandfather, like that. I think that's really great. But again, I think as an audience, it's just like seeing our, I don't know, maybe we start off believing that this is the way that it should run because of safety and that everyone's more safe now. And somehow that's the journey, is the journey of our discovery of this is too much control. I don't think we want that much control. So it is there is a bias, I think, towards that, isn't it? I mean, isn't that sort of your thesis or your idea sort of at the end? It's like, let's blow this whole thing up and, maybe start from scratch in a different direction because it's not the path that you want humanity to take, I guess, if you could steer it.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
That's 100% right.
Okay, cool. And I like that. And I think that's the journey that I took that brought me into this story. So, all right, we good with Captain Nora Jones? I said
yes.
3 minutes left.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go here. So Paris Carlisle, this is the daughter of Aldric, kind of our socialite character. And she's somebody who has grown up with immense wealth, which I think is always, and I've known people on both sides of that coin. People who've grown up with immense wealth. You never know that they grew up with that wealthy of a family because they're just so down to earth and clean cut. And I've seen the total opposite end of the spectrum. People are just wildly entitled and totally reckless.
Where does she fit?
She's not on either one of the extremes. I feel like, and with her,
is she a chameleon where she just acts differently in different situations, or does she have a fixed way of being?
Kind of, because I imagine her as somebody who is, seeking validation. I imagine her as somebody who had a really beautiful relationship with her mother, always had difficulty connecting with her father because of his condition. And so when she lost her mother, it became more difficult for her to get that emotional support that all children need growing up directly from her father. And so that has, kind of kept her balanced. The relationship she had with her mother kept her balanced enough to where she's not on either end. She's kind of ping-ponging a little bit. Okay. And
okay,
that's what I envision with her.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay. Paris Carlisle. I've seen there's a lot of girls that have submitted for her that I can see fitting what I imagine is that.
Cool.
So
I'm excited to see that.
Okay, next.
Let's go to Carver.
Okay. Just call him Carver.
Oh man, I love Carver's character. Like this. In Carver's, Carver doesn't want to have to do some of the stuff that he's doing. Like, and think in Carver's mind, he's done. He's created this community. He's all about community. He's all about freedom. He has it. From his perspective, he and Nora, while they don't have the relationship he would love to have with her, they've found their agreement. He's living peacefully with his people outside the city. He can do what he wants to do. They're turning a blind eye. It's just, let's just kind of keep this status quo going. Right.
They have been turning a blind eye, but now I guess they're ramping up,
Because you've got this sect that goes in and supposedly kidnaps Paris. So they realize, it's one of those things to where that type of almost utopian community can't last forever. Somebody in there is going to want more. And Hector is the character that is driving that, who wants more, who feels like an outcast, who doesn't want to feel like an outcast, who believes that he should be able to live his life with more luxury, the same way that he's living his life with the freedoms now, but in the luxuries of the technological world.
Okay.
So there is a very physical difference. He's tired of dust getting in his burger.
Yeah, okay.
Like
specific reference.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
okay, well, that's Hector, so we've moved on from Carver.
Yeah, so there's such an interflow between these characters, and so Carver's being forced into more action than he wants to be. But I think there's a beautiful thing that happens with Carver where he's almost resigned himself to this life. He's like, he'd be happy to die in the Wheeler camp.
Okay.
With however many couple hundred people live there, whatever the size that ends up dialing in exactly to be. It's not huge. But he starts to feel called to more when he does get pulled in and he's thrown in the mix of this, and the Wheeler camp gets raided, and now he's being thrown back in the city, and now Blake is having to go to him. He's reconnecting with his grandson. So he's reconnecting with family, which is incredibly important for Carver. And
at the beginning, he knows it, but Blake does not, right? He's reconnecting with his grandson, but Blake is unaware that that's happening. So that's an interesting dynamic happening. Okay, let's move on to Hector, I guess, from Carver. If that was the next one you wanted to do, let's skip. Okay, because you mentioned him.
So again, Hector's kind of more of our quote unquote villain here. But
sorry, was there a character in your mind just so people can say, like, I know it's of a certain age. So Carver's the grandfather, so he is of a certain age.
Yeah.
What, any specific types or any? I'm trying to. I guess I'm coming around to physical, but I shouldn't focus maybe not as much on that. It is the internal life and the personality, but. Is it just wide open to to every sort of ethnicity, race, like not gender guys, but like
I write very racially agnostic.
Okay.
So it's to me much more about the emotional dynamics.
Okay.
When you get into families and just like literal genetics, then you have to kind of create, either create a story behind that or stay.
But for the Hector,
that
sounds like is that ethnically specific? Is a Hector more of like a Mexican? Character, or is that just a name that you chose? Why Hector? Why that word?
Yeah, I mean, yes, there's obviously ethnicity in his name. I'm not married to that.
Okay.
When you're writing agnostic, it can also end up coming across as very singular. So I also didn't want that.
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's tricky
but
to write.
The thing about Hector, I guess sounds like it's more important. Correct me if I'm paraphrasing wrong. Is just that desire he's like not the alpha dog, wants to become the alpha dog and take control sort of the society, or take control of the group and change the group because he's fed up with Dustin his burger or whatever, right? He has to have a certain personality to be able to pull that off, right? Or to be able to,
in my mind,
attract people to,
he's got that charisma. He's got the drive. He's somebody who followed Carver early on because of the promise of freedom and living life on your own terms, which was very important to Hector from the get-go.
Gotcha.
But he's not in love with how that is manifested. The fact that it is this kind of like dirty, dusty camp out in the desert. Like, what? Hang on. Like, I thought the promise was that we were going to be reintegrated into the society.
Not living always on your own, off. In the outskirts.
And so Carver's gotten kind of resigned. I mean, if you want an actor, I picture like a Jeff Bridges, kind of type, or even like a more, like maybe a 10-year older Idris Elba, somebody like that who's got that grit to them.
It helps me having those names in my mind. I know I don't want to fixate on it must be that kind of person, but it just helps me.
Totally.
And it might help other people, I don't know. But
and so that's what I envision with Hector. And he is trying to now force that reintegration because in his mind he's not getting any younger. He's now kind of come up through the ranks. He's kind of Carver's right-hand man. He's got a following, people who are almost probably he knows are more loyal to him than they are Carver. He's convinced them of this promise of like reintegration, and so
that's why that happens at that time. Okay, cool. Who's next?
So next we've got DANI. The Blake's love interest.
So they were two together, weren't they? It was like DANI and there was two characters like the Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh yeah. That's Riley and Surgeon.
Oh, that's Riley and Surgeon. Okay, sorry, I confused that. All right, DANI, D-A-N-I.
D-A-N-I.
All right, who's DANI?
So.
Or DANI, I don't know.
Yeah, DANI is funny. Going back to when I just finished Wednesday, so it's fresh in my mind. But she has a little bit of that in her. Like what I thought was so beautiful about the character that Tim Burton portrayed with Wednesday Addams was that she's so fiercely independent and so unafraid of being herself. Now she's trying to work through her own emotional issues and like learn how to connect with people. But what others admire in her is that she's just not afraid.
Right.
She's not afraid. And I think that's important for the DANI character. This is somebody who is not afraid of anything more than emotional connection. Keeping an arm's length on that side of things. When it comes to the physical world around her, she'll walk in that door. She's not afraid to go into that room as the lights are out. She'll go explore a cave. She'll push the bike to 180. She'll do those things.
She's a risk taker.
Yeah, she's a risk taker. But
seeking
it's funny,
life, adrenaline junkie or something. I don't know.
Because she's seeking the very thing she's avoiding, which is emotion. She's seeking that feeling, but she's doing that through these adrenaline-like things, and are not doing it as much from.
So really, what she needs is that emotional connection. Yeah. Okay. That's an interesting subtext for her character.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess an arc, right? She starts out with adrenaline junkie and then ends up, fulfilled with what she needs, I guess. Okay. Next, after DANI, and again, just to know the point of today is really to break down these characters. And then for actors, when they submit self-tapes, to submit the links and their names in the comment section of this video after it's published so that we can collect them to review them, probably beginning Sunday. If I can at the end of this, I'm gonna try to look at a few more self-tapes if you're patient. And if not, we'll just close it. But we have a few more characters to discuss.
Cool.
So after Danny?
Yeah, we'll go to Bonnie and Clyde, the Riley and Surgeon.
Riley?
I'm excited about seeing them on
Surgeon or
screen.
Sturgeon?
Surgeon.
S-U-R-G-E-N.
Surgeon, yeah.
Okay, describe these characters to me, because I feel like there's a lot of directions we can go with the whole Bonnie and Clyde thing in today's modern world here.
You know, one of my favorite dynamics that to me they sort of represent is if you go back to Ocean's 11.
Okay.
The brothers, Casey Affleck.
Yeah, I love those. Yes, they're my favorite characters.
I know.
They're bringing up a huge like remote control truck or whatever. Just they're between each other, like at each other's throats all the time. Like they were great characters.
Yes, that's what I envision between
great
these
characters. And that's a point where I feel like those are great characters with each other. But that dynamic could play out among two people that are as different as you can cast that in any possible body or form or any person that exists that you can imagine. It's really just about that dynamic between them. If the two of them together are somehow just a great chocolate and peanut butter combination, you know what I mean, that you just love to see, you know, together. Because it's comedic relief, and it's, you know, like they're crazy and just fun and you know, I want to, and I paired them together in the posting because I do want to see.
Cool.
I don't know if it's going to be like, it wouldn't be necessarily friends, but I kind of want to play with just throwing in casting, like throwing two randomly different people together, and seeing how they interact.
I'd love to see
with each other, maybe in person, or if we can make it look good on camera, or if we can read that. It's harder to play off each other, you know, if they don't know each other, not in the same physical space, but we can try to do that. But that's going to be fun too. So CLEO, I'm excited about, and also those two, like playing with the different characters there.
Me too.
I feel like they can be anybody as long as if people know that reference, they get it. Is there another reference, just like two characters together that are an odd couple, or you know, just a.
Let's see what the folks here on. Who's your favorite odd couple pairing? It's like seeing the two, you know, this Bonnie and Clyde, Laurel and Hardy type of.
Are there other types out there that I can think of besides the Ocean's 11 characters? I don't know. We have a little bit of lag between the feed and then this, but Peter and Lewis. Who are Peter and Lewis? Is that a British reference? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Canadian reference?
Rick and Morty is another good example. I don't know if you've watched that.
I know Rick and Morty very well.
Okay.
Rick and Morty sheets. You know, not for my own sheets, but I have on the guest bedroom. I have like a twin bed with Rick and Morty sheets.
But there's a little like, and that would be
Eleanor and Chidi. Eleanor and Chidi. I don't know these ones. Oh, Family Guy. But which people from Family Guy? Family Guy's
Eleanor and Chidi. I think they're talking about The Good Place.
Okay.
With Kristen
From
Bell.
The Good Place. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Lemon and Tangerine.
Oh yes, from Bullet Train.
Oh well, I just recently saw Bullet Train, but there's two together. Which
Lemon and Tangerine.
I don't remember him that
the
well.
guy who plays Paperboy in Atlanta. I forget the actor's name, and then the guy who played Kick-Ass in the Kick-Ass movies.
Okay.
I forget his name too.
That'll be fun. So there's a lot of directions we can go with that. That'll be fun. Gianni Blue, I think that was his name. This is a DJ who's performing.
Aaron Tyler Johnson, thank you very much, Joseph. I appreciate that.
Aaron Tyler
He's on the
Johnson.
IMDb, so you just need that either way.
Peter Griffin. Oh yeah, okay. And Lois. Peter and Lois. Audio stream's current bitrate is lower, so we're degrading in the quality of our stream, I think, here.
Okay. Hopefully not the dialogue.
But all right, after Riley and Surgeon, which are going to be so much fun, we'll do more sessions specifically on each character where we are set up to bring people in and to watch the tapes and
Great.
And do that in addition to Sunday. We'll figure out some times to do that. Who's after Riley and Surgeon?
We're starting to get into the more of the
those are the
minor
main characters. That's it.
There's two more main characters.
Technician. I see people audition for technician.
Yeah, and Edward Baker. Edward Baker is the kind of the chief engineer of Aldric's.
Okay.
I imagine him to be somebody who is, you know, his validation comes from scientific achievement. He's somebody who he's got more patents than he probably has items in his
wardrobe.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
In his wardrobe. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's he is just really fulfilled by like being on that cutting edge and the next thing and the next thing.
So he's the real engineer behind the creation of a lot of the technology, not the face of it as Aldric is as the CEO. So he's more like the.
But Aldric is also very technical himself.
Okay.
But it's kind of like, I mean, I think less of a Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak,
yes.
more of a Bill Gates and
Ballmer.
Well, not Ballmer, no. Yeah, I'm forgetting. Anyway,
references are bad.
But yeah,
the
like,
sugar helps,
yeah,
but I'm still glad. But
that's his ethos.
But he's the engineer. He's the chief engineer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the technician,
or like Elon Musk and the chief engineer of SpaceX or something like that. I don't know what the guy's name is. I've seen him on some videos.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, that's actually a much better example. It's a really good example.
Okay. Cool.
And then the technician.
The technician. We're gonna move on to the technician. Okay.
Is
there anything you want to see from the Edward Baker character in terms of just I guess just that passion and I don't know, like the engineer archetype? Do you want like an actual archetype of somebody who's like a classic, like guy never leaves his bedroom and is always on the computer and doesn't see the light of day and is just coding all day? Or do you want to or do you want to play against that type and have somebody that has a different personality but yet has these engineering skills? Like so we're talking about
this is
go ahead.
Somebody, I think the subtext I'd love to see behind the character, I was kind of making this up, but like he's somebody who like really loves pickleball, right? Or he's got like a very hyper niche specific hobby.
I like pickleball.
I do too.
Okay.
But like
that's
his world. There you go. Yeah. So like he's got like there's another dimension to his character. I don't want him to come across flat as like just this like engineering person.
This general person
that has no social skills or whatever, but like it's super, super niche, whatever that social / hobby outlet is.
Okay.
Hyper niche.
Okay.
But also adds that other dimension to his character.
Okay. Like it.
Paul Allen. Thank you very much, Kevin. I knew it was a Paul.
Okay.
Steve Jobs and Paul Allen.
Yes, I should have known that.
So, and then the technician, I actually see him kind of similar, but just like not as smart.
Okay.
He's working for the police department. He's a smart guy, but he's not, Ed Baker. Maybe even looks up to Ed Baker, right? Maybe like follows him, but he's got this, very Ned Flanders like motif about him. Maybe like super polite, but weirdly so. Yeah, there's something like a little bit off about him.
Okay, that's cool. That kind of wraps it up.
Cool.
I don't know if I should make an attempt to review any of these submissions. I may, but what I might do is just turn the camera at what we see here, and there may be glare.
Will they be able to hear?
They'll be able to hear. Yeah. So I'll give it a shot.
Okay. Is there a way you can bring up links on here, or do you have to load it?
Well, if I exit that, it's going to end the stream, so I don't want to do that.
No, we don't want to hit that.
But I can pull up at least the Blake Town. So we'll get one guy who submitted for Blake Town. Or it'd be nice if somebody that was here that submitted, but I don't think I'm going to be able to be a good guy and accommodate that right now because it will require hunting.
Okay.
But we are going to turn the camera around and watch Blake Town's audition.
This is technology at its best, folks.
Yeah. I don't know how good the setup is. You want to adjust the camera?
The setup is not good. We will shoot the movie better than this.
I don't know. Why not? This is a great style for the next Fast and Furious movie. We'll laugh at this and we'll do it for fun, but then we won't continue like this. This is ridiculous. But okay.
Can we hear?
If I can't hear the sound, they certainly can't. So
this is how the sausage is made, everybody.
Let's go. Let's see this. No, it's even too bad for me. So I'm not going to do this, but that's okay. And I'm accepting of a lot, but
we will reschedule
for Sunday. We will do it.
Portion of our program.
If there are any last minute questions, let's try to take some questions though. If there's anything anybody wants to know about anything, classic. Edison and Tesla. So we're back.
Stitch it together.
Wow, that's me right now. That's you. Oh, that's cool. Shoot. Should have the movie will be made out of audition tape.
Stitch together via Zoom.
That'd be awesome.
That's the plan.
Okay, in regard to writing parts from yourself, how much do you rely on each actor to bring their own individuality to the role? Are you okay with improv/ad-libs, or do you prefer word perfect?
No, it's a great question.
It's a good question, and I have an opinion, but it's not my thing. So,
oh man, the word. I mean, I have to choose. Like, am I in writer brain or director brain? In director brain, no. Like, it's
you know what?
I don't want it to just for someone to try to guess what I experienced and then mimic that. That's not the point. I want somebody to pull in their own experiences, to tap into something that.
No, for sure. As an actor, they're going to build the character themselves.
Yeah.
From their interpretation.
Yeah. So when they're reading the lines, there's a spectrum, right? Like there's word perfect, and then there's.
I'm making shit up as I go along.
Right? or like I took just the general essence of what you said and then said something entirely different. To me, it's, you know, there's plenty of room between word perfect and, you know, ad lib, improv, adding to that.
Right.
You know, in an audition tape, I'm trying to get a sense of what is the character's way of saying what is on the page.
Right.
I obviously, as the writer, you know, and same with Van, when we were writing this, like had an idea in our head about what that would come out with. But the beauty of filmmaking is that you see something and like the way it comes out, like, oh my gosh, that's it.
Right.
And I don't like. I think that can be done word perfect. That's the beauty of it. Like you can see somebody say the exact same words and it comes across entirely different, just because of their essence and the subtext and everything under there. So, as from a casting perspective, I think it becomes more difficult to see the selection if everybody is completely changing all of the words. There has to be some amount of consistency in order to get us an understanding of how that person's buying the character. Otherwise, like I wouldn't like having everybody reading completely different lines from the movie.
No.
So,
yeah. We want to compare apples to apples, oranges. We're all delivering the same lines. How do you deliver it differently to show your interpretation of the character? Not just change the words around.
So within that, there is room to use different words. There's room for a little bit of improv and ad-lib, but not to entirely reinvent the dialogue.
Okay.
And then that's not to say that dialogue actually ends up, when we shoot it, maybe it is. But for the purposes of casting, I need to be able to have reference.
But I was also thinking that there is a place for, based on the actors and based on the development of this, to have that character interpretation by the actor influence what the dialogue is. You know, like that the story is the ideas and the feedback of the people who are reading this and giving their opinions could shape, you know, some of a rewrite in the future at some point. If you know, an actor brought in and has some specific, you know, something specific to bring to that character.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you can just leave it up to the moment, I guess, and try to do it online on the spot, exactly word perfect. If it comes across in the moment, spontaneously, slightly different, but everyone's okay with it, then, you know, you go with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think so long, the number one thing to remember is just the whole point is that this is directly in line with the character as that actor is envisioning and embodying it.
Right. And playing with the other characters in the scene to accomplish an objective.
Right. This isn't about rewriting the film. That's not the point. Like that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about somebody having to switch up some words or some order of something in order to portray the character as they see it, because the way they are written on the page simply just doesn't align with that. But it has to be all in service.
It'd be good to have a specific
example.
I think as we come across it, maybe we'll run into some scenes of auditions and concretely have an example to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Chris, we'll have more meetings like this direct with the writer-director, probably. Something similar with other ones. We're just playing with the format. We'll perfect it and what we want to do for each one. Okay. That's it. I mean, unless there's anything specific. It is always paramount with the first audition to not insult the writers. I guess by like coming in and doing completely different lines, like self-taping different lines would be an insult to the writer who wrote them. I guess somebody's commenting that.
Yeah, I mean,
It's completely different, but
I'm not going to be insulted by anything. It's not, I don't look at things through that lens. I look at things through the lens of, is this working for what we are trying to achieve? And what we are trying to achieve is casting the best person. And so if it's not helping us do that, like I'm not going to be insulted by anything. It's really just, if it's just not going to help. It's not going to work.
I think I know how you answer this, I think. But the question is, will you cast someone who acts good but doesn't look the part, or looks the part but doesn't act good?
Yeah, so this,
yeah, go ahead.
This is it's a great question, and something that I realized after like doing some acting and then moving more into the writer-director role. There was this aha moment where I realized when I was doing like my first casting, I was like, oh, yeah, it's not like, I remember as an actor being like, oh man, if I just acted better. That's not it.
Right.
That's not it. Like as we're looking for an essence, there is an embodiment of the character that we have generally in our mind. And it's not a one specific, sometimes it can be a specific thing, but usually there's some gradient to it. And it's one of the things we'll know when we see it. Like it'll pop out, or there'll be a couple here. It's like, oh man, I really love these manifestations of the character. And it doesn't have to do with how you look specifically. It doesn't have to do with how good you act specifically. This isn't about finding the quote unquote best actor, whatever the heck that is.
Right.
There's no such thing. Like, so it's about, yeah, you have to be able to, you have to be a good actor. You have to be able to feel real human emotion and put that into the performance. That's table stakes.
Right.
You know, from that point on, it's about what is the embodiment that is going to serve the character, and then the mix of characters, because this shifts as you start to lock people in for the other characters, because now you're dealing with dynamics of people that are going to bring these things out, and that really has to do with the essence and the embodiment of the character.
So you're saying that, I think, there is something you're going to know when you see it, but that thing that you know when you see it isn't necessarily an external factor that looks a certain way. It's more the embodiment of those, that kind of internal life that you talked about.
It's energetic.
Each of those, energetic. Okay. How does that translate into actor speak? I should be more energetic. Like I should be.
No. Meaning we are always emitting energy.
Okay.
Right.
So
and then
you're trying to fine tune a frequency that somebody's vibrating at, like harmonics or something.
Yes.
You know, like harmonic resonance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have the correct harmonic resonance for a character, you'll be cast. All right. So look that up, scientifically research that, and we'll try to put on the channel what the frequency is for each character to dial into.
48 hertz.
48 hertz. Okay. Wavelength, yeah, but it is kind of, it's funny. You said wavelength. Well, are we on the same wave? Are you on the same wavelength as the character? That actually does fit. You know what I mean? Ironically, that I was being funny, but okay. All right. I think that's it. All right. So I don't know. I guess we say goodbye now. Sunday, I'll plug that. So Sunday at noon PST, we're going to be live again with a somewhat different setup, a table read. But before doing that, we'll have callbacks and auditions, review of self-tape auditions with Tallest Arc City Man in Hollywood, and also we're going to try to fit in some Wheeler. Those who've already submitted, we'll have specific ones set up with the right technical setup for you to look at.
Awesome.
You'll be back, right?
Yeah, and are we gonna do this towards my first time seeing them on the spot, or are we gonna get to see these first?
I don't know. Do you not feel comfortable reacting just in the moment?
I feel super comfortable reacting.
Okay, let's do that. Let's just react in the moment. One of the things that I'd like to give before then is dates for people. So if we can, in the moment, I'm going to put on the screen if they were called back or not called back. Okay. So you should be able to say that if you'd like to see them again or not. I'll put a call back on there. Okay. And
so we're going to make, fair. Yeah, that's fine.
We're going to make decisions on this, but we're actually really going to talk about the sausage. We're going to show the sausage inside the sausage factory.
Cool. Can we eat sausage? You have snacks every time.
I always have snacks. Yes. We can do a meat snack for you. But I think on that note, though, it's just important. You're obviously a kind person, and you'll be kind, but also honest. I don't
Yes,
think it's when I think about like the American Idol judges, it's like Simon Cowell. I resonate with Simon Cowell, even though he can sometimes, or some judge like that can come across as being a dick by being brutally honest. I think that's more important than the person who just says really nice things all the time.
yes.
But somewhere in between is appropriate in terms of the spirit that I'm trying to go for. So something where it's like you're giving true, transparent, honest, constructive feedback. You're not pulling punches, but maybe you're like a iron fist with a velvet glove, just sort of honest, but like obviously it's important to do it in a way that is going to be productive and helpful to the person, not tear them down if you have something that you don't love about the performance, or if you're not going to call them back. But the idea is to help each person that comes get better from it, not
Yeah.
just to provide praise and then shy away from telling them the truth about the performance.
I'm a big believer in always adding value in any interaction that you're having. And so, yes, like I will be direct and honest, but I am a kind person. I'm not gonna, and I'm somebody who has worked at many crafts to try to develop them. In fact, there was a really great TikTok that I saw of Ed Sheeran on a British like late night show. And he had his phone and he played for the audience one of the first songs he'd ever written. And it was purposely
it wasn't good.
Terrible.
Oh shoot.
Terrible. I mean, his voice was actually legitimately bad. And the lyrics were like super cheesy. And he's like, I'm tired of people thinking that like I just had talent and just made it. Like this, I didn't. And from his mouth, he's like, I didn't have talent. I just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. The issue with that, and what is super helpful, is knowing where to get better and how to get better. And so I've been someone in all the art forms, whether it was like when I was doing my music career or screenwriting or whatever, everything is all about, I actively seek out feedback.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've already decided to keep moving forward with this. That's not on the table. I'm not going to go run away and say, I'm not going to do this. I'm here and I'm here to stay, even if what I did is terrible. And I just want to know how to make it better.
Okay.
So
as long as,
there is no steps. Yeah. It's just, everything is about, number one, does this work or not work for the movie that we are shooting? No judgment, just does it work or does it not work? And then if there's an opportunity for constructive feedback that can help this person become better at their craft, and there's an opportunity for that, then yeah, I'm happy to share that.
Okay, cool. So then we'll look forward to doing that on Sunday.
Perfect.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.